Congresswoman, it's so great to see you. Had an opportunity to hang out with you in Atlanta this weekend. Spent some time in the city.
You
Uh,
need more time in the city, Glenda. More time.
I know at one point, I was going to move there, but now, I'm in other places.
Come on down.
Um,
Come on down.
and so excited for you to join us again for Sunday brunch. You've been brunching with us since the beginning,
We've
online,
been
in
brunching
person
since brunching been brunching.
brunching. For those who don't know, you represent the district that was once held by the late Congressman John Lewis, uh, and have often said that voting rights are personal to you and are rooted in his legacy. As we continue to mobilize and strategize around this moment, how serious is the threat facing Black political representation in this moment? I think people recognize what the rollbacks mean, but like, what does it look like in real life, in real practice?
So, in this moment, I think it's important, as much as we understand the impact that the voting rights decision that came out of the Supreme Court will absolutely be detrimental to Black representation in the United States Congress. I think it's important for people to realize that this isn't just a Black issue or a Southern issue, because when we're thinking about healthcare, housing, affordability in this country, if we don't control the majority as Democrats, then that means that we're not able to fight for those things that are at the top of every American's mind right now. And not just Democrats or Republicans, because we're hearing it across the board. People are suffering from an affordability crisis. They're suffering from a housing crisis in this country. And so having a majority of people in Congress that are fighting for the American people is critically important. And what this decision has done was impacted our ability to, number one, take the majority. And that's what happens, Glenda, when we see that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, their politics aren't popular. Their policies aren't popular. And so the only way that they see fit to win is to get this Trump appointed Supreme Court to come up with decisions that really make them speak out of both sides of their mouths. So think about the Louisiana decision. And what just happened was they said that, well, the Supreme Court is not going to intervene and say that you must have an additional Black district so that Black voters in Louisiana can have two opportunities to elect leaders of their choice. So, but then they're going to voting had already started. Voting had already started. Let that sink in. People had already cast ballots. And up, nope, they're just going to say those votes don't matter and allow them to move forward with a new map to literally throw those votes away, start over with a new primary. But Glenda, think about Texas. When the same thing happened, and there was a court decision in Texas to say that, well, right now, we are too close to the election for you to change the maps. Even if they do violate the Constitution, it's too close to the election, so we're not going to interfere. But then in Louisiana, when voting had already started, it wasn't too close. And this is in the same court, the same election cycle. So, not like it's decades apart in the decisions. So, make it make sense. They say that it's not about race, but it absolutely is about race. And yes, just this week, we heard from Southern states who said that they weren't going to redraw lines. In South Carolina, the South Carolina legislature had 5 Republicans who sided with the Democrats in the South Carolina State Senate, and they said, nope, this is a touch too far. We're not going to do this, and we're not going to eliminate the only Black district, the only Democratic district in the state of South Carolina. And they're like, we're not going to do it. But then, lo and behold, the governor, after it didn't pass, the governor said, well, now I'm going to call a special session and try to force the hand and try and force you to do it. Same thing is happening in Georgia. We got word that our governor is calling a special session for June 17th. So our primary is May 19th, like imminent.
Days.
And now, June 17th, there will be a special session to redraw the lines. And the big conversation has been about congressional lines, but I need people to be clear that this decision also impacts state legislative lines, county commission lines, city council lines. It impacts all lines that have been drawn to create fair representation in this country. So this isn't just about me worrying about my own seat and my own lines as a member of Congress. This is about fair representation across the board.
Also, it happening during an election cycle is meant to create chaos in our election
Absolutely.
system. And why it's important when you talk about lived experiences and qualifications. We've known Nikema Williams before she was Congresswoman. Nikema Williams, not only an advocate on women's health, also was elected to the state legislature. So understanding the nuances of how local and state and federal governments work uniquely positions you to talk about this in this moment, and also connecting how are the two bodies talking and organizing. So speaking of organizing, was talking to a researcher recently that was saying that this moment, people were, fired up about racial justice in our community, but democracy in the last 2 weeks sparked as a top issue
That's
that we
right.
want to take action on. The us being democracy defenders. All roads are leading to the South, where you've been organizing for years. Just yesterday, massive kickoff to the Freedom Summer of 2026. In your home state of Alabama, activists and local faith leaders and voters came together to say, hands off of our democracy. So, share a little bit about people want to take action. People want to take action, and now more than ever, I think Black people are fired up about voting in this election cycle and knowing their information. What should people know about that activation in the South, and how we can plug in to the work and how we support our current elected leaders in this moment?
So, Glenda, I hear a lot from people who ask me why I invoke the civil rights movement so often in the work that I'm doing, especially some young people or people not from the South who are like, well, that was a distant past and that's not where we are. And so, why are you still talking about it? Well, I represent the seat that was held by the late Congressman John Lewis. And a lot of people don't realize that this district was also held by Ambassador Andrew Young. So, I am in a steep history in this district around civil rights. And this is our civil rights movement, Glenda. What we saw in Alabama, people converging to the South, making sure that they understand that this isn't just a Southern fight. Everybody has to tap in. And so, if you wondered what you would have done during the civil rights movement, how you would have engaged, this is your opportunity to find out, because they're not stopping with Alabama. They're not stopping with Louisiana. They're not stopping with Georgia. So while the Alabama and Louisiana maps have been passed, what we know is we have an opportunity to still engage in Georgia. Our special session starts on June 17th, and there will be activations happening on the ground in Atlanta. And there are many opportunities to get on the mega bus, the Greyhound, get on the train, get on the plane, come to the South, come to Atlanta. And we have advocates on the ground who I've been working with for 2 decades now, doing this work in the South, homegrown. So you don't have to invent your own program, but get engaged, because everything is on the ballot this cycle in Alabama, from our governor's race to our Secretary of State to every state house and state Senate seat in the state of Georgia is on the ballot. So we know that even in the midst of this moment and all of the redistricting, the census is coming up in 2030. That is just around the corner. Whoever is control of state legislatures across the country, that's who's going to draw these new lines that will, in theory, be in place for a decade. And so while I'm going to do everything that I can in Congress, it's going to take us fighting in the courts. We know that Black people only won fair representation by going to the courts in the first place. So we can't give up on the courts. So we have to fight in the courts. I'm going to continue to fight in Congress because I am introducing legislation. I have been named as a co-chair of our um, Democracy Reform Task Force by our leader, Hakeem Jeffries. So I'm working on that with the fellow New Yorker of yours, Glenda, Joe Morelli. So we are the co-chairs of this movement to combat anti-democracy actions across this country, and anti-corruption, because these gerrymandered districts, whether you want to say that they're racial or partisan, they are still gerrymandered, and that is a form of corruption in our government, because we have people drawing lines to benefit one party or another, not the people. And so we are working on this, and people need to engage in that way, but also the community. The community has to show up, has to make their voices heard, and that starts with voting in these primary elections. That starts with making sure that you show up as these activations are happening state by state across the country, and you have to make sure that your voice is heard. You can't sit this one out. I know we say a lot that this is the most important election of your lifetime, but Glynda, look at everything happening in the courts. These are things that we read about in our history books. That the Supreme Court is supposed to grant people access to rights, not take them away. But that is the framework that we're in right now with this current court. And so we have to remain vigilant, keep fighting, and understand that yes, days are going to get long, it's going to seem hard, but Congressman Lewis, one of his final papers that he wrote, he said, let us not get lost in a sea of despair. Let us be hopeful. Let us be optimistic, because our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, or a month. It's the struggle of a lifetime. So each generation has an obligation to do their part. It's our turn, y'all. This is our civil rights movement.
Yeah. That resonates about it being our turn. And I often talk about Black people, particularly Black women, are the architects of this modern day democracy. You are a clear indicator that you are one of the defenders. But I believe all the Black women that tune in to Sunday Brunch, we're defenders. You may not think you're a leader. My great grandmother didn't think she was a leader, but she certainly used her influence to organize her network to the polls, which is what we will need to do in this moment. But I also believe we're the builders of what's next. So
That's right.
if you could see beyond, like you're going to be one of the legislative architects of building our future, what do you imagine the possibilities of what we can build moving forward?
Multiracial coalitions, Glynda. Like, I know that, and when you talk about people not realizing that they're leading in this moment, or they don't see themselves as the leader, I know that they pick up that phone and they will text people and let you. I have a core group of friends. They let me know when the sales are happening. They are organizing around different issues, whether it is what is happening at a big sale, whether it
What you
is who
watching?
to go to vote for, what you're watching, but we organize. And so we need more of that. And so, as we are continuing to build what this next iteration of this experiment that we call America, 250 years, just 250 years, we have a voice and a say in what the next 250 years look like. And so that is why this task force that I'm co-chairing is so important, because we're bringing in community leaders. It can't just be about what one group of elected leaders in this country think, because this is about all of us and how we move forward for the long haul, not just this election cycle. It's not just about one cycle. This is about people's futures. And so we have to have things that will sustain the test of time, and we have to be ready to fight for it, Glynda. And I mean, I remind people that I'm Bone Crusher's Congresswoman. I ain't never scared. So it's time for some people that ain't scared to fight for what we know is right in this country.
Well, thank you for being a democracy defender. Thank you for stopping by Sunday Brunch. Look forward to having more of an extended conversation about all the work that you're doing. But in this moment, it is about the intersectionality of the fight, and recognizing at the core of this is protecting and fighting and expanding what this democracy is. So thank you, Congresswoman Nikema Williams.
Thank you. Thank you.